So, first things first, James.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm alright, thank you.
Good.
So, before we talk about the music you've been making lately, I'd like to jump back a little bit.
Sure.
What was it like growing up? I read down it was Barford in Warwickshire,
Yes.
I think.
Yes. Well.
Was it a very musical town?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, Barford. I mean, Barford's a village. Warwick is kind of better known.
Okay.
And it's just kind of an old medieval town. You know, it's close to where Shakespeare's from. It's known for reasons that are not, related to music. So,
Okay.
And when I was, in school, it was very classical.
Okay.
Like the first instrument I ever learned was violin. And
Right.
I don't usually talk about it because I don't really count it because I wasn't very good. But it was quite tricky, to want to be a singer-songwriter in a school in a place that was very driven by classical music.
Right. But I believe your father made music,
Yes,
and
yeah.
so was there always music playing around your house?
There was in my house,
Okay.
right. My dad did play lots of different music. I mean, lots of he played lots of rock, to be honest.
Okay.
Like ACDC and whether it's that or Foo Fighters. He plays in a wedding band for fun. On the weekends. So he was playing that, and he was playing acoustic like Damien Rice and
Okay.
Montaigne. Like he played a lot of different types of music.
So is there maybe one artist, you mentioned Damien Rice, who kind of
Yeah.
fits in the profile? So is there one that sticks out for you?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, the first two albums that I kind of like fell in love with because he played them was Damien Rice's his first album, and Maroon 5's Songs About Jane,
Okay.
which was their first album too. Both of those were kind of on repeat in my house, and Damien Rice was the first cover that I did as well on
Okay.
YouTube.
And well, we'll get to the covers in a minute.
Sure.
But first, you mentioned that you played the violin, and obviously afterwards it was the drums,
Right.
guitar, piano.
Yeah.
Did you like playing the violin?
Kind of. I kind of liked it when I could figure out a pop song
Okay.
on the violin,
Okay.
but I didn't really like playing classical stuff on the violin. I think it was just because it was the first stringed instrument, or the first instrument that I played.
Right.
I was fascinated by it, but as soon as I found like more contemporary instruments like drums and guitar, I was like, this is way cooler to me.
And is that did you start writing at that age, when you picked up the guitar?
I was
as well?
12. I was 12. Yeah. So as soon as I started playing guitar, I started writing
Okay.
songs. And a lot of it was, I heard Damien Rice sing, and I heard Ray Montaigne and Bill Withers and like cool people, and then I was thinking, oh, how hard could it be to write a song? And it was actually a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
How long did it take you to write a song that you were proud of?
That's a really good question. The first song that, I think I was proud, from the first songs that I was writing. I was proud of them because I did it,
Right.
it was me that wrote them. The first song that kind of got me like a record deal, I wrote when I was 16, so it took me kind of 4 years to
Okay.
write a song that was kind of record label standard, if you like.
Mhm.
But I still remember being really young and going to the library at lunchtime when all my friends were playing football, and I would just go to the library and write songs about my crushes, and which I'd never play to them. But I guess I just loved writing from an early age.
And like you say, you grew up in a town a village where a lot of classical music was kind of the thing.
Right.
So did your peers or your schoolmates, did they kind of understand what you were doing?
They understood, but I guess I just didn't fit in that as well with what they were doing. I think a lot of them were playing in orchestras or playing in jazz bands or whatever it was. And at school concerts, I'd ask, "Oh, can I play a song by myself on the guitar?" And my teachers would be like, "Yeah, sure, you can do that." And I don't know, they just looked at it slightly differently to the way that I looked at it.
And then obviously one good thing is, I believe it was 2010 that you started your YouTube channel?
Yes, yeah.
So we have this technology that kind of globalizes everything. So what did that do for you to be able to share your music with people who aren't necessarily in the same town as you?
I think initially it was scary.
Okay.
It was kind of, I think for a lot of people, people ask me like, how do I get my music out there, and I don't feel that confident to really. I think the biggest thing is just finding confidence in the beginning, because the scariest people to show the videos to are your friends and your family. It's not strangers.
Sure.
Because you don't really care. Like in the beginning, you don't care what strangers think, but you do care if your friends see it and they don't think it's good. So, but it became, you know, I gained confidence over a while when I found strangers did like the sound of it. And when I was 12, my voice sucked. Like my voice, I'm being serious. Like there's videos of me playing with my bands in school when I was 12, and I like cringe at them. I watched them like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I thought this was good, you know, at the time. But that's the thing. It's been a growth.
Right.
And on YouTube as well, I figured out the songs that people wanted to hear and the things that they liked that I did, you know, in my covers. So it was just a progression. And
you mentioned the singing. So after having kind of played a couple of instruments, was it difficult then to make that transition to sing as well?
I think depending on how difficult what you're playing is, it's difficult, but I found it kind of quite natural to sing and play chords. But then when you start getting onto songs that have like, you know, plucking and picking, that's a little bit more difficult. But the thing is, because of the drums, I mean, the drums is, you know, basically splitting up all four limbs and doing different things. So I think I already had figured out how to split the parts, if you like.
Okay. And you mentioned the first cover you did was Damien Rice.
Yeah.
And obviously you have done a bunch of covers.
Yeah.
So going through how other songwriters create their songs, did it help you kind of develop?
Oh, definitely. I think because I learned their chords and I quickly figured out, oh well, you know, Damien Rice put this chord with this, and so did Maroon 5. You know, like I was kind of drawing them together and figuring out what chords to work together. I didn't really have that. I learned on YouTube how to play all these songs. It wasn't in school, so it meant that, oh, I'm going to write a song with the same chords or with slightly different chords, but it did set the foundation for how I would write songs in the future. And
this might be difficult to answer, but is there maybe one thing you kind of took away, that what makes a good song, or?
I didn't start kind of analysing songs like that till I was about 16, and I started watching, you know, like seminars like from professional songwriters. This is when I had never co-written a song before, so I'd only written by myself. And you know, they were saying, oh well, an intro for this is for hits, you know, for like songs on the radio. It can only be max like 7 seconds. And I had a song that had a 45-second intro. You know, there's one thing. It can only be 3.5 minutes for the radio to play it. Blah blah blah. And I kind of absorbed that, and I think initially I took it more seriously than I should have done, because there are songs that have 10-second intros or 1-second intros. Sure. You know, there is a big range. You know, a palette that you can go from. But in the beginning, because I'd never written with a professional before, I was like, well, this is what I have to do. So I started writing really formulaic songs. Right. And over time, figuring out there's a lot more freedom behind it. And when I started writing songs with other people, I figured out that just that you can experiment, and not necessarily the songs that fit the criteria are the ones that become a hit. You know, I think Take Me to Church is a good example. Sure. I think Take Me to Church, if someone sang you the melody of Take Me to Church, you'd think, oh, like, it's a nice melody. Would you think it's like one of the biggest songs in the world? Maybe not, you know. But then when he puts the lyrics into it and everything else, it becomes this entire thing, you know. So just, you know, I just get fascinated by it.
But so in that sense, if we take a couple of your songs, and especially When You Love Someone became a big hit, so could you kind of predict that, or when you're writing it?
No, absolutely no idea. I think when we write When You Love Someone, the way I felt afterwards was just, oh, this is a special song, you know, this is a very unique story. It's the same way that my label felt. Like, I don't think anyone after we wrote it was like, this is the single, this is the one we're going to go with. I think everyone was just like, wow, this is really different, you know, to everything else that I'd done and that was going on at the time musically. So definitely could not have predicted that it'd become what it has become.
And I believe you kind of wrote it to, which I find very interesting, you wrote it to explain divorce to someone you were teaching guitar, I think.
Right. So I was teaching him drums.
Drums.
Yeah. But he was 11, and I found out before him that his parents were going to get divorced, so he didn't know it was going to happen. And I just kind of thought, how on earth are they going to explain it to him in a way that he'd understand, and that would be a positive message, you know, so he didn't feel bad about it. and I just wrote the song with all that going in my head, like how would I explain it and what's going to happen.
But is that maybe then the art of songwriting, to explain something quite profound in just a few?
I think that's definitely a part of it. I think sometimes you can be writing a song and you're thinking, what do people want to hear? Like, what's the line that makes sense, that like sums up the message? But then sometimes I'm like, James, forget about it. Like, what would you say? Like, honestly, it like in songwriting, being honest is the thing that will win people over, because more people than not feel exactly the same way you do about a lot of things. And doing that, like, that's what Adele does so well. You know, like, you feel like she's completely taking the words out of your head, or you know, out of your mouth, and that's what the best songwriters can do. So
what is the best reaction you had from someone to your music? Kind of being able to...
I remember the first time I ever performed When You Love Someone, like in a board meeting, kind of to a kind of like a publisher. It was like a publishing rep, and he was like a grown man with like tattoos and like, you know, like a fairly strong dude, and he cried, and I'd never had anyone cry to one of my songs before, and I remember after the meeting, like, feeling completely, I didn't know what to feel, because I was like, wow, like, that's what it's about. You know, I remember sitting in the car and be like, I feel so good right now because I made someone really feel something, and he, you know, thanked me so much for the song, and just after that I was like hooked, and I was like, I want this on every single song. I want it to connect with people.